Hey folkies, Emelie Waldken here. Nyckelharpa is a wonderful instrument. It has a very generous sound and is not that hard to learn to play in the beginning, so you can get like really nice feelings from the start. However, it has one big drawback, and this is how to hold the damn thing. I mean, it's quite a big instrument. I hear the cellists and double bass players laughing in the corner, but let's ignore them. I come from violin, so this is quite much bigger. It has this weird long shape, a lot of weight in the head and not that much here, and you have to have the keys working. So working with gravity, you can't play it flat, you can't play it like this, and the bow has a weird tendency of wanting to go into your face. How to hold this instrument properly? I'm gonna demonstrate all the holdings of this instrument that I know of. There are certainly more, so just check these different holdings, whether you're a new player, a beginner who wants to basically learn how to hold this instrument, or also if you're a more advanced player who has, like myself, difficulties with their bodies. Either you have pain in the back, in the shoulders, in the neck, or just problems with how you hold the instrument and want to find something more comfortable. But so let's go for all the possible holdings that I know of for Nyckelharpa. First, we are gonna see the positions where you're sitting, and this is probably where you're gonna start if you are a total beginner. So, you take your instrument and you put it flat on your knees in the middle, like this. The first thing you do is to tilt it a little bit towards, well, for me the camera, towards you, so that the keys can work with gravity, because if the instrument is flat, they don't work, they don't fall back into position once you have played them. So you want them to work with gravity, like this, to slide back. There. Here you can see, if you take your bow, that you are having a little bit of a problem. You have a risk of injuring yourself. So what you want to do is to tilt the instrument a little bit, so that instead of resting on both your thighs, there, it rests only on the left one. So the head goes down, tailpiece goes up. And then you can put your arm over it like this. And here, now you can bow, and the bow goes over your left shoulder without any problem. Here, it's possible that you will need to adapt a little bit, to slide a bit the instrument like this, or to tilt a little bit more or less, or maybe also tilt the head a bit away from you, while the tailpiece comes a bit closer to you. It depends on your body, the length of your arms, and also the way your Nyckelharpa is proportioned, basically. Here you can encounter another problem, which is that your bow basically hits on your right thigh. So just open the legs a little bit more. Basically the instrument is balancing on its edge there on your thigh, and you're keeping this balance with your arm. There is this movement happening. This is the basic position for playing sitting. Then you have a few different variations of it. For me, this position feels that I need to extend my left arm a bit too much, so I like to have my left leg a little bit higher, which brings the instrument higher. For achieving this, you can have one of those foot rests for classical guitar players, or anything that works like it, like a big book or a box or a Nyckelharpa case. In my case, I have a chair that has a little step where I can put my foot, and then I am in a really good position for playing, not stretched too far. Very similar to this, you can also cross your legs, left leg over right leg, and then you also have the instrument a bit higher. The only problem is that you're a little bit limited in the reach. You cannot reach the highest keys, but then you can tilt the instrument a little bit to the side or a bit forward, and then you can reach all the keys. You could also play cross-legged with right leg over left leg, which is also comfortable. The only problem is that you cannot reach very high at all. Your right knee is in the way of your hand. So this is very useful if you're playing just in first position, but if you're climbing, it's not the best. Then you also have some people who play similar to this, but just decross the legs and then have the Nyckelharpa more on your right side. This to me feels a little bit weird, because it feels the instrument is very much tilted towards my right side, and also there is this limitation of the leg, but several people play like this and find it very comfortable. It all depends on our body shapes. There are also players who use a pad. I don't have one, so I'm using a rolled blanket, and then you can have the instruments pretty much on it. I don't exactly know how this works, but I guess something pretty much like this. Emilia Amper, amongst others, plays with a pad, which is much smaller than this, but apparently it's a very comfortable solution. It is just a little bit annoying because you have to carry your pad along, but there is worse. Let's now talk about the Nyckelharpa holdings, which involve a strap. Usually they are used for playing standing, because you cannot play standing without a strap, but you can also actually use a strap for playing sitting if you find it more comfortable. For this part, I asked several Nyckelharpa friends from a bit different countries over the world to demonstrate their preferred holding and give me a bit of insight about each of them, as I am myself not used to all of them and only to the ones that I use. We start with the traditional Swedish Nyckelharpa holding, demonstrated here by Vicki Swan from England. For this holding, you just need a basic guitar strap that you can find in whichever music store, that you attach to the neck of your instrument and its tailpiece, and then you roll the right part of it around the tailpiece, and this is helping the instrument get the right angle against your body, and you put your head through the loop formed by the strap with your instrument. And as for the sitting positions, you just put your right arm over the instrument and find a good diagonal that works for both your bow, your arms, your ribs, and everything else. This holding is the most known one and popular one, especially in Sweden, and it comes from instruments that were smaller and lighter than the modern chromatic Nyckelharpas. Because of that, it's very suited to, in general, light instruments, but it can be a bit problematic if your instrument is a bit heavier or bigger, or if you have some back or especially neck problems. The main drawback of this holding is that it's quite demanding for the neck, as the entire weight of the instrument is on the neck. There are several adjustments to this, for example having an elastic strap, or using some kind of padding in the neck area, but these are more like adjustments and not actual solutions. If you have a sensitive neck and or a heavy instrument, especially one of the tenor or octave Nyckelharpas, Vicki is here showing one of her home-found versions of the traditional Swedish holding, which is to open your strap and use it as a loop around your right arm, and then using the rest of the strap just as a normal Swedish traditional holding of the Nyckelharpa. She has also elongated it a little bit with a little string and a hook. This is pretty much homemade adjustments, I guess, but in general this variant spreads the weight of the instrument between your neck and your higher back, therefore making it more comfortable. Now I'd like to present the holding that I use myself most of the time, which is guitar-like. So here you put your head and your right arm through the strap, and for the rest you just hold the instrument exactly like the one before. The difference here is that instead of having the weight of the Nyckelharpa on your neck, you're gonna have it mostly on your left shoulder. It is a quite comfortable position, especially if you come from guitar or mandolin playing. However, it has the drawback that, well, the weight of the instrument is now on your left shoulder, which can also lead to problems in your back. I'm personally experiencing some at the moment, so I'm trying to find other solutions. That's also why I'm making this video now. Also here you can note that I tend to hold my Nyckelharpa flatter against my body than most players. This is mostly due to the fact that my ribs have absolutely no protective layer of fat whatsoever, and therefore the pain of the edge of the instrument in my ribs is just too big for me to endure. So yeah, move your instrument along your body a little bit and try to find ways and angles and directions that work for both your body and your instrument. They are always different because we all have different bodies. A similar holding, but exactly reversed, is the Jule Bauer's holding. So Jule Bauer is a German Nyckelharpa player who came across this way of holding the Nyckelharpa and developed it. She's the most well-known person using it, and I wished her to be in this video as well, but she was just too busy to participate, sadly. So I'm demonstrating it myself, although I'm not really used to it, so it may look a bit awkward. In this holding, instead of your right arm going through the strap, you take your left arm instead. And then you adjust the instrument and you get the weight of the instrument on your right arm. This holding, at least to me who is not used to it, feels a little bit counterintuitive, but I guess that with a bit of practice it can be actually very comfortable. However, again, the problem is that the entire weight of the instrument is on one shoulder. Still using a simple strap, but quite different, is the Didier François holding. Didier François is a Nyckelharpa player from Belgium who developed this way of holding the instrument in order to prevent neck and back problems especially. This holding is most popular in France because that's how it's taught by the teachers there, so you can also come across the name the French holding, although it's technically Belgian. Here it's demonstrated by Aina Tulier from southern France, with two different variants, with the strap going over the tailpiece, as for the previous holdings we've seen, or without this little detail. Normally the holding doesn't involve the little turn around the tailpiece, but Aina says that having it is actually giving the instrument more stability and allows for quicker switching to the traditional Nyckelharpa holding, which she also uses. This holding is popular because it is very comfortable and especially liberates the right arm, giving it more movement freedom and also allowing for a longer bow. However, it has two main drawbacks. The first one is that due to the position of the instrument very flat on the body and also very much more pointing downwards, you can't see your fingers at all. So it's possible to play with this holding only if you have a Nyckelharpa which has an open top of the keyboard, which most Swedish Nyckelharpas don't have. The other drawback is more a question of sound. In this position, your right arm comes under the instrument, which removes its natural weight into the string. This gives it a sound that is a little more shallow and goes less deep into the strings, as traditional Nyckelharpa playing from Sweden does a lot. So to me at least, the sound of people playing with this holding is always a little bit more like light and airy, maybe a bit more classical or even baroque-ish with a very light bow, no matter the kind of bow you're using, by the way. And it lacks a little bit this kind of swingy and down into the string that all the other holdings with the arm over the instrument have. In my opinion, this holding is not suited for playing traditional Scandinavian repertoire, but can be very good if you have back problems and if you're planning to play totally different repertoires. A quick little adding to the information about this holding. Aina just told me that with the arm under the instrument you can also have very interesting bowings. For example, when you let your arm fall with all its weight, you can have very powerful down bowings. So there are also specific techniques that you can use with this holding and not with others, which I thought was interesting mentioning. Now let's move on to a different type of strap that is a bit more specific. Here presented by Sonia White from Washington in the US. This type of strap is formed of two loops of a strap, which are maintained into place with a little piece that keeps the X crossing of them. This piece is gonna rest in the middle of your back while each loop goes around your arms. Usually you will also have on the left side a little string with a hook which helps putting the strap on a bit more easily. Sonia says that this strap is really comfortable, a life change for her in her Nyckelharpa playing as opposed to the traditional Swedish holding, because the weight of the instrument is now resting on the middle of her back and not on a shoulder nor on the neck. She says that this strap is also very practical because you put it on and then your hands are free. The instrument is fixed to your body and you can stretch to grab things, to write, to do things with your arms, and the Nyckelharpa stays into place and doesn't just swing away from your body as with the other holdings. However, Sonia mentions two drawbacks. The first one is that, well, you need a specific strap. It's not very complicated, and if you're a little bit of a crafty person, it's quite easy to make yourself, else you will have to order it from someone who can make it. And the other one is something that Sonia mentioned actually quite often when we were studying together, which is that it takes a little bit longer to put on a cross strap as opposed to a simple strap. So in a classroom, as in Erik Sahlström Institute, when you put on and off your instrument all the time to take notes and so on, Sonia had a bit more annoying fiddling around to do with her cross strap as opposed to all the other players with their simple straps. However, she says that she would not change her cross strap for anything else. And the last holding I want to talk about today is the least common one and the most peculiar one, probably. It is what I call the cello-like holding, because you hold the Nyckelharpa vertically against your body, like a cello. It is here demonstrated by Elodie Poirier from France, who is a cellist from the start. She is one of the very few people who have adopted this holding for the Nyckelharpa. I know only 3 of them, there are probably a few more, and most of them, if not all, come from cello playing. Because when you come from cello, the logic of the bow is reversed as opposed to usual Nyckelharpa holding, violin and viola. So holding the Nyckelharpa this way makes it much easier for you to bow the instrument, as it is similar to how you bow on a cello. For this holding, you need only a regular simple strap, however, you need a specific keyboard, because the keys are now horizontal or almost, which means that they will not fall back into place by law of gravity after you have pressed them. They will stay somewhere close to the string, half pressed on, and very often make a stupid buzzing sound. So on each key you need to have a very little spring that will push it back into place. So if you want to hold your Nyckelharpa this way, you either have to buy an instrument that is built this way, or get a regular Nyckelharpa and get the keyboard modified. So that was it, folkies, for the holdings of the Nyckelharpa, at least the ones that I know of. Surely there are many more of them. I've heard of quite many creative solutions, people building their own structures to put the Nyckelharpa on, or inventing new or weird type of straps and also padding for their straps. Remember that what is important is to find something that works for your body and your instrument. It's much more important to not injure yourself than to have the right holding. And also, what is the right holding for you depends quite a lot on what you play and in which kind of situations. If you want to move around a lot, you need to play standing. But if you like to jam for hours in a very crowded pub, maybe sitting is better. In any case, I highly recommend you to train a few different holdings and to change between them, because it's important for your body to have different types of strain on different places and not always the same one on the same spot. I will also remind you the importance of stretching regularly while you play and before and after, especially for an instrument demanding for the body as Nyckelharpa is. A big thank you to Vicki, Aina, Sonia and Elodie who have helped me make this video. There are links to their different projects and websites and Facebook pages and YouTube channels in the description. Please go check them out. Last but not least, I have recently started to put my music online, finally. And for celebrating this, I have released on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes and many others a new single, which is Handling fra Aurskog, a very nice little Halling tune. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel and consider supporting me on Patreon for seeing more videos like this. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Hej då!